is it, huh? It's time to start something that's going to probably raise a lot of controversy on the internet. And to just, share my thoughts on things before we finish the end of the year. And you know what they say, new year, new beginnings. Hello everyone, welcome back to Animation Station for the first time in quite a while, hasn't it? It has definitely been quite a while since the last time I was on here with camera with you guys from Christmas vacation and a bunch of other stuff that has been going on at the time. And yeah, as you can see, I'm holding up my old phone because now I have a new one. For those of you that don't follow me on my socials, it's the latest Moto G. So, videos should be in a lot higher quality now, and everything should run a little smoother. So yeah, this is my old phone that I've been using for the past 3 or 4 years now, and thankfully I finally now got an upgrade, so let's do what we're doing along with this, and finish up 2025 by talking about some things from media. Because why not? Because this is YouTube after all, right? So, what's up? What's happening? What's going on? But welcome back to Animation Station, your number station for anything and everything, including TV and movies. I'm your host, Jackson Small. Welcome back once again to this channel for year-end list season. And this is usually one of the most busy, vitriolic, and strange times every single year when I'm doing this, because it's the end of another year. It's the look back upon everything good and everything terrible that's happened all throughout the year. And I've been doing this for about, I want to say, 5 or 6 years now. So, for some reason, I think it gets both easier and harder every single year to just go through everything that happened this year. And usually I try to sum it up by talking about movies, television, and music, because I don't want to talk about anything else in real life, because yeah, the real world's kind of an absolute, for lack of a better term, a shit show. So, this is my way of trying to sum up the year without having to, get political or make people angry or anything like that. Even though I'm still going to make people angry because this is the internet. Anyway, let's go ahead and start off year-end list season right. And since this is an odd-numbered year, that means we have to start with the best first this time. Starting off with the top 30 best movies of 2025. And man, I don't really know what the overall consensus is outside of a few of my own friends from my own personal circle on Instagram and Facebook. But if I had to take a guess of what the overall opinion is for 2025 in terms of film, it is one of the best in recent memory, because this year, for me personally, was amazing for film. Like, legit amazing. Some of the best that I've seen in a long time. And certainly one of the best of this decade, without a doubt. So, trying to put together a best list of any kind this year, even trying to extend the list to an extra 5 entries, was really, really freaking difficult, because there is a whopping 83 films that could have vied for the spots on this list. So, instead of doing what I usually do and just picking like a few certain honorable mentions and then going straight into the list, I thought instead that I would list off every single movie that got a 6 or above out of 10 that didn't quite make the list, because all these were good or great in their own ways and deserve some recognition. So, because this is me starting to make things both old and new at the same time, here's every single movie that didn't quite make the list, but I still think deserves a mention, alright? Those movies are The Wolfman, A Working Man, Black Bag, Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, Fantastic Four First Steps, Mouse of Horror, Nobody 2, One Battle After Another, Bone Lake, Coyotes, Kaiju Number 8, Mission Recon, The Running Man, The Witcher Sirens of the Deep, Caught Stealing, My Hero Academia for Your Next, Companion, Death of a Unicorn, Sovereign, Grand Theft Hamlet, Highest to Lowest, Spinal Tap 2, The Drowned, Jay Kelly, Sisu Road to Revenge, The Housemaid, Chainsaw Man Rezark, or Rezark, however you pronounce that, Bambi the Reckoning, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, Roofman, The Monkey, Drop, 28 Years Late, 28 years later. Screamboat, How to Train Your Dragon, Queens of the Dead, The SpongeBob Movie Search for SquarePants, George A. Romero's Resident Evil, Art Attack, The Dissection of Terrifier 3, Marty Supreme, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Saquon, Predator Badlands, Black Phone 2, Good Boy, Ugly Stepsister, Bring Her Back, Sorry Baby, Dangerous Animals, Happy Gilmore 2, F1, Ballerina, Clown in a Cornfield, and Thunderbolts. Like, that was already a pretty good list right there, but it actually gets even better, because a grand majority of this list that actually made this top 30 this year are 8s to 9s and above, including, spoiler alert, a whopping 7 films that got 10 out of 10s or higher. So, yeah, it's going to be a pretty crazy, long, very detailed video. So, I hope you guys are ready. I hope you guys are ready to dive into this year and give it one last solid salute before we move on to the next one. So, without further ado, let's begin. These are my top 30 best movies of 2025. I hope you enjoyed. That's all I'm going to say. I know I'm probably going to make people very angry with some of my thoughts here, but remember, pure subjective opinion. This is not definitive. This is not me trying to make like some kind of royal decree or anything like that. This is just me sharing my thoughts on movies as I have for the past almost 6 years now. So, with all of that denomination out of the way, let's get started. Beginning at number 30, a movie that I was not expecting to make this list, and I wasn't even expecting to be good, to be honest with you. But it turned out to be that, and it definitely surprised me in more ways than one. And that is Popeye the Slayer Man, kicking off our list at number 30. This is a movie that I didn't know what to expect. Like, I have been very hit or miss with these public domain horror films. Like, huge fan of the Puniverse, but the rest have been very scattered, to say the least. And while I did enjoy movies like Neverland Nightmare, Bambi the Reckoning, and Screamboat this year, there's also some movies that I was not the biggest fan of that fell into that public domain horror category. So, I went into this one with kind of middling expectations. Like, yeah, I did like how they tried to actually incorporate the character's origin and actual character and design into a horror film. You know, he's got the big arms, he's got the sailor suit, and they actually do have a reason why he eats spinach, just like he does in the cartoons. But they also did something a lot of the public domain horror movies missed, and that is they actually stayed somewhat true and faithful to the source material. Because they actually found ways to work in all these elements of the source material, but twist it around just enough to make it dark, but not to the point of being outright cringe. Like, yeah, the acting in this movie is still not very good, but what made it for me is the way that they were able to incorporate all these elements from the original Popeye cartoons into a horror movie in a way that's actually really fun, not to mention some nice practical effects. And yeah, I already did a full review on this one. If you want more, go check out that review, but it's definitely one of the biggest surprises of the year, and it is a movie that I definitely think is worth seeing. If you're a horror fan, and if you're a huge fan of Popeye like I am, I think this will give you what you're looking for. Just some good old slang with the Sailor Man. So yep, that's number 30. Coming in next at number 29 is a movie that many people probably put a lot higher on their list, and it's not that this is a bad movie by any means. Like I said, every entry in this actual list is great to amazing. It's simply here because of stiff competition. So number 29 is one of the best animated films of the year, and that is Dogman. A movie that I was not expecting to like as much as I did. Now, to be fair, I really enjoyed Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. I thought it was a really funny collage of different elements from the original books. However, I've never read the Dogman books that this is based on because it came out after my time. And seeing all the trailers for the movie, I was kind of iffy on it. But I started seeing some fellow critics in my circle beginning to give it some praise after getting to see it early, and I thought, okay, well maybe this might actually be something pretty decent. And not be the usual DreamWorks trash fires that I expect nowadays. So, I sat down, I watched it, and I did a review of it. And yeah, this movie's still pretty great in my opinion. I do like its art style. I like how It kept the protagonist silent, which is a godsend because very rarely in movies do you have a silent character actually be silent in the actual adaptation of the original source material, if you know what I mean here. And the villain's great, Petey is great. I think that's one of Pete Davidson's best roles as Petey the cat. And they also have some nice family moments in there, and Dogman himself is a very interesting character. Like, I was surprised how much I actually liked him. Sure, the third act is a little bit, iffy, but I think a grand majority of this movie is what makes it work. Also, it is a modern kids animated movie that has classic country music in it. You get praise for that alone. So yeah, if you want more, go check out my review, but Dogman definitely deserves a spot on this list, without a doubt. Speaking of movies that deserve a spot on this list, next up is another animated film, and a movie that I thought was actually going to make my top 10 because I'm such a massive fan of this particular duo, but again, stiff competition kept it from going any higher. So, this is probably going to make a few people upset, but trust me when I say it is all because of stiff competition and not because of the actual movie itself. 28 is Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. First of all, it is amazing that Wallace and Gromit actually returned this year. I never thought in a million years, after the sad, tragic passing of Peter Solis, that we would actually get to see this duo in a new project again, outside of those weird YouTube promotional shorts. But it turned out Aardman decided to make another movie anyway. They teamed up with Netflix to distribute it, which is both a good thing and a bad thing, because bad because we don't know if it'll get a physical release. I hope and pray it gets a physical release because it deserves to be right there in the collection alongside Curse of the Were-Rabbit. But also because of the way that the movie is topical about AI and it's not cringe. How Ben Whitehead does a really good job as the new voice of Wallace. The story is really engaging, and it's just everything that you love about this duo. And it's like almost nothing has changed. Not to mention, this is a sequel to one of their most acclaimed shorts, The Wrong Trousers, and they even bring back the same penguin from that short, as the main antagonist of the movie. And he does a really good job. Feathers McGraw, he is still one of the best villains in Aardman. And then you have the goofy slapstick comedy and its commentary, and it's just everything you love about the film. And I think the only way that it stumbles here is because the third act, just like Dogman, is a little bit hit or miss. Put that aside though, and you're still in for an amazing film. Like, I really enjoy this one, and even if I don't love it as much as I love Curse of the Were-Rabbit, and most of that is because of my own horror fixation, this is still a really good animated film that is absolutely worth checking out if you haven't seen it. If you're a fan of Wallace and Gromit, check it out. Trust me when I say it is more than worth your time. And hey, it was the first movie that I reviewed this year, so I guess that was a nice precursor to how great this year actually turned out to be. So let's move on. 27 is a movie that's going to get me some hot water and some controversy, because this is a movie that a lot of people really don't like, but I honestly found really fascinating in its own way. And that is Shelby Oaks. This is a movie that I really wanted to review because I am a huge fan of Chris Stuckman. He is one of the reasons why I became a critic in the first place and why I got into movie criticism. But, unfortunately, because of time, I sadly did not get to do the review that I wanted for this film because I couldn't see it on time. But, in my opinion, I definitely fall into the really side of this debate with this movie. And yeah, I admit that Chris is not as great as he used to be when he first started out, but I mean, when you're on YouTube or doing anything in particular for years and years and years, after a while, you are going to start to slip a little bit. It's just what happens. It happens with movies, it happens with music artists, it happens with television shows that stick around for too long, and it definitely happens to YouTubers when they're trying to come up with new content to keep people coming back. So, okay, that out of the way. Shelby Oaks as a movie is actually really, really good. And in my personal opinion, I think its strongest element is its atmosphere. And this is what I love especially about these, small budget indie films. The way that they're able to use the most minimalistic things at their disposal and put the emphasis on just creating an atmosphere around it. Good Boy did the same thing, but the problem with Good Boy is that it didn't really have much of a story. With Shelby Oaks, however, there is a story here, and I definitely think that the characters, while definitely not out of the realm of this genre by any means, is still fascinating, and the atmosphere here is very, very good. Like, there were times where I could literally feel chills up and down my arms and my chest as I was watching it. Yeah, it's not going to be for everybody, but I absolutely love movies like this that are able to make such a great atmosphere while also giving just enough story to keep you invested. This movie's not going to be for everybody, very obviously. But if you love atmospheric horror rather than like visual gore fests, this is definitely going to be up your alley. And it's just a miracle it got made at all. And if you watch Chris Stuckman's channel and you see the journey this movie had to go through to even get made in the first place, that in itself is an achievement. And nobody can take that away from him no matter what happens. So, yeah, I think Shelby Oaks deserves a spot on this list, and I'm sorry to Chris that I couldn't actually review it to spread the word. But it deserves a spot on the list, and I'm glad that it made the list. Okay, number 26 is a movie that I'm still going to review. Don't worry, I'm still going to give this next one a full review. But for now, I'm just going to put my basic thoughts here. That way I don't spoil everything I'm going to say when I do my actual review. Number 26 is Utopia 2. Yeah, it's on the list. And yes, it is probably going to make people a lot upset that it's not in like the top 20 or the top 10 of the year or anything like that. And here's the thing. I'm burnt out on Disney. Like, I have said that several times all throughout the year. I am just burnt out on them, and this was my final film, excluding Spider-Man, that I was actually going to sit down and watch. Problem is, I had to wait until pretty much the back half of this month to finally see the dang thing, so by then I was still kind of burnt out a bit. So when I finally did see it, yeah, it's a pretty great sequel, and even if I still prefer the original just a little bit more, this is still one of Disney's better sequels in recent memory. I mean, give me this over that trash fire of Inside Out 2 any day of the week. The characters are still the characters, and they're still just as great as they were in the original. The story is still a lot of fun, even if it is a little bit more flawed this time around, whereas the first one, it was a lot more focused. I don't know, maybe that's just me. The comedy is still great. This is pure, classic, cartoony, classic Disney slapstick. It's not the crappy visual ones that try to just make it, it's not like the modern ones that do way too much to try to actually be funny, and forget that simplicity can also get the biggest laughs. And, of course, good pacing, great music. They brought back Shakira to do a new song, which, yeah, that's always a plus in my opinion. And it's just a really entertaining film overall. Like I said, I'm probably going to have to give it a few more watches before I say if it's going to be ultimately better than the original Zootopia, but I really like both movies, and I am glad that my final new Disney film, excluding my favorite webhead, is such a high-quality product. Like, Disney, if you're going to do sequels, do more of them like this, and I may or may not give you a little bit more credit. So, why is it not higher? Well, because it does retread a few things from the original, and there are some jokes that just flat out don't work. Some of them are just straight up misses. But the ones that do hit do far outweigh the ones that don't. That's just all I'm saying. So, Zootopia 2, yeah, it's going to be high on a lot of people's other best lists, but for me, stiff competition and a few minor gripes keep it from being able to go any higher. But it's still a great movie, and even if you are like me and you are fed up with Disney, this is one movie that's definitely worth checking out. I'm not sure if it's still in theaters or not, but it's definitely still worth watching, whenever you can. Number 25 is a movie that's probably going to be pretty self-explanatory if you know me and you know my massive fixation with the horror genre and how I'm a massive gorehound, but yeah, 25 goes to In Search of Darkness 5, I believe this is 5. 1995 to 1999. These In Search of Darkness documentaries just keep getting better with every single one of them. aside from 3. The third one I was not the biggest fan of because it felt like they ran out of material. But these ones going straight into the movies of the 1990s, they've been doing a great job at covering a lot of ground in just these 2 movies that cover both halves of this decade really, really well. I like the choices that they made in here. Some of the guest stars they got in here was great. And they do a great job at giving a lot of background to each of these films. And yeah, these documentaries are long. They are 4 hours apiece, and that can be a bit much for some people. But if you are a horror fan and you are fascinated by some of these movies of these different decades and how they either made or didn't make such a big impact when they came out in those decades, or have or haven't made an impact since then, yeah, this is definitely one that's worth watching if you're a horror fan. But I can see why it's not everybody's thing, and because it is 4 hours, they do have a bit of a pacing issue. It's been an issue since the first In Search of Darkness, so it's not really a congruent problem of this movie, it's more just an overarching problem of them making it such a long, super stuffed documentary series. That's just all I'm saying. But I think it deserves a spot here because, again, they're great. They're great little horror documentaries that give lots of love to the genre for both the classics and the ones that seem to be more forgotten about than not. So, yep, it goes on the list. Speaking of documentaries, and this one I don't have to say a lot about because I actually did get to do a review on this one, 24 goes to John Candy's I Like Me. Now, as I stated in my review, I wasn't super familiar with John Candy. I didn't grow up on his movies. His films are way past my time. But when I finally sat down and watched this documentary, I felt just as emotional as a fan probably would, seeing all these movies and everything that he's done, all the good that he's given to the world, and the sad way that he kind of spiraled out towards the end of his life. But I also love that this documentary takes some notes from Won't You Be My Neighbor, for example, and is very upfront, brutal, and honest. Like, the movie opens with a section from his funeral, and you have the preacher saying words on the, I forget what they call it, on the microphone, or the big stand thing, I don't know what you call it. And then it goes into his life, we see a lot of the movies, and we even get to see a lot about how much he's influenced a bunch of other people in either the comedy space or just the people that he's worked with. Like, heck, you even have Macaulay Culkin in here saying some nice things about him, which is really, really sweet. So, you want more, go watch my review, but this is a great documentary, and it definitely deserves to be among the best of the year. Number 23 goes to Trash. And I mean trash in the best way, because this is another movie that I did get to review, and it is a movie that I think deserves some very well-deserved recognition. That is the remake of The Toxic Avenger. It's low budget, it's crass, it's foul, it's disgusting, it's gory, it's brutal, it's deplorable, but that is all the things that give it its charm. It's one of those remakes that understands what made the original Toxic Avenger such a beloved 80s classic. And they found a way to bring it all into modern day, give even more gore than the original did, believe it or not, and find ways to spin it, but stay true to what came before it, if that makes any sense. It's one of those remakes that understands the original, and you can tell it's made by fans of the original, that tried their best to stay faithful to that original while also trying to make it their own film at the same time. And that, in my opinion, is what makes the best of remakes, especially in horror, where you do respect the original, but you're not afraid to try to give it your own spin while still staying true and faithful to the original. And I think that's what this movie succeeds at most. That and the gore is just amazing. Like, some of the best bloody, brutal kills of the year are in this movie. However, I can understand why it's not everybody's thing and why some people really didn't like it, because, well, it is a very trashy movie, but it's a trashy movie that knows it's a trashy movie and just has fun. Also, Kevin Bacon is here. I don't really know what else to say. I did a full review of it. You can go watch my review if you want more, but this is a really, really good remake, and I think it should stand as an example of how to do a remake, a horror remake especially, correctly. Next up at 22 is another movie that I really wanted to review this year, especially after I reviewed its original, but unfortunately I just didn't have time, and the time that I did watch it, I didn't have any extra energy to actually put a review out, and I'm sorry about that. Worst case scenario, I'll try to get a review out by early 2026. Sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent. Anyway, long story short, number 22 on this list is Neza 2. I am so infuriated with myself that I didn't give this one its full review because it freaking deserves it. Like, what an insanely good new franchise for animation that Neza has turned out to be. I can see why it made so much money when it came out. I can see why it became such a huge thing in China. And I can see why this movie in particular is now the highest grossing animated movie in film history. I'm not even sure where to begin with this one, man. Like, the voice acting, yes, it's different than it was in the original, and that is a bit distracting. But when you take that out of the way, not to mention they still have the two main stars voiced by the same people, well, that's fine. 2, animation is absolutely stellar. Like, oh my goodness, this animation is somehow even more insane than it was in the first Neza, or Neja, or however you pronounce that. Sorry, I'm not Chinese. 3, storytelling is some of the best that I've seen in animation all year. Like, it is absolutely just glorious in so many ways. It's so well written, it's so faithful of its culture, just like another movie that's going to be very high on this list. And 4, pacing. One of the best paced movies of the year, without a doubt. So, if it has all this, not to mention insane, crazy, amazing, awesome action, why is it so low on the list? Well, because I don't think that it's as good as the original. I think that the original has slightly better storytelling and character development. At least in my personal opinion. Whereas this one, its strengths are in its animation and its pacing. Now, I get that that's a very controversial opinion, and it's going to be probably one of the many things I say that make people upset, but it's my opinion. And I think that the original is still the better movie. Not by much, mind you. These are both still super high quality films that deserve all their praise. But I think that the original just has slightly better character development. Just my opinion. But even if you take all that out of context, these are both great movies, and the only reason that this one isn't higher is because of very stiff competition. And by stiff, I mean very stiff. Like, again, all the movies on this list, 8 out of 10s or above, including 7 that are 10s or above. It's just one of those movies that definitely has earned its praise, is going to be high on a lot of other people's best lists, but for me, it's just fantastic, but can't quite reach that higher echelon. So please don't be upset with me for putting it low. It still is a great movie. It's still very worthy of becoming one of the best animated movies of all time. But to me, I don't know. I feel like I need to watch it a few more times before I can say it's better than the original. Because right now, I can't. Because after only one watch of both of these movies, I still feel like, again, the original, slightly better. Even if 2 does have better action and even crazier animation. Regardless, it's an awesome film. If you haven't seen it yet, you need to. Okay, moving on. 21. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because I believe this is another one of those movies I actually got to review, and that is The Accountant 2. I watched both Accountant movies back to back for the first time when Accountant 2 came out, and the first Accountant was a fine movie. I'm going to be very transparent. I'm not a huge Affleck fan, but I was at least invested. It seemed like it was at least competently made, and it did have some interesting quirkiness to it. Accountant 2, on the other hand, is great for one reason. Jon Bernthal. Freaking Punisher. The way that this dude has such incredible chemistry as the brother of Ben Affleck's character just lifts this movie up super high. Not to mention they focus more on action rather than, the actual accounting part, which is one of the things that drag down the original so much. It's funny, the writing's a lot better, it's better paced, and the whole finale is fucking amazing. So, I already did a full review on this one if you want more about it, but it definitely deserves to be among the best of the year, and it's easily one of the most surprising of the year because, again, the original, not that good of a movie. But the sequel, pretty damn good. Definitely check it out. Alright, now we get into the top 20, and this is where things get stiff because everything here is a 9 to a 9.5, with the exception of 2 movies that start the 7 entries on the list that are 10s or above. So, let's fly through these somewhat quick, shall we? 20 goes to a movie that I want to review because I am a huge Stephen King fan, and I've always wanted to see this particular story adapted into film, but by the time I saw it, just like Neza 2, I just didn't have time or energy to review it after. So, kicking off our top 20 at number, 20, is The Life of Chuck. This is a movie that is really well-made, well-paced, emotional, heartbreaking, but also fascinating drama. And like I said, it's adapting a Stephen King story. And one of the biggest reasons why I love this movie so much is because of its director. This is directed by Mike Flanagan, the same guy that made the freaking spectacular masterpiece that is Doctor Sleep. And here, even if this movie's not horror specifically, you can still see that incredible mastery of direction put all throughout this movie. And then you have the cast, which the cast of this movie is just insane. Like, absolutely insane. Tom Hiddleston, Karen Gillan, Mia Sara, Matthew Lillard, Harvey Gullin, Jacob Tremblay, Kate Siegel, Mark Hamill. Like, incredible casting. And all of them put in, like, insanely good performances, especially Hiddleston as the main character. And the movie's emotional moments all throughout hit very hard. And just like the original King story did, it does a good job at leaving you questioning, life itself, life's purpose, what happens after death, and all these existential theories. While also giving you a really tense and very, I don't want to say euphoric, but enthralling drama. And considering that I'm not really a drama genre type of person, that's saying something. And it really goes to show you how good of a director Mike Flanagan is. Like, this guy alone could direct pretty much any Stephen King adaptation in the world, and you could tell that it's going to be one of the best of the year, if not the best. So, yeah, Life of Chuck, it's a movie that, I really wish I could have reviewed, because it is a movie that deserves its praise. But I can also see why some people found it just a little bit preachy. And that's why it's not higher on the list, as much as I love it. Speaking of movies that I love and I wish that I got to review, let's move on to number 19, which is Novocaine. This movie is just plain hilarious, stupid, goofy fun. It's about a guy, played by Jack Quaid, who can't feel pain. Like, even if he literally has things sticking out of his body, through the other side of his body, he feels nothing. And this movie takes incredible advantage of such a goofy premise and does such a great job with it. Not only for being a hilarious action movie, but also for being a really good comedy. Like, this movie is just plain stupid fun, and it's really hard to actually dislike it. Then you have the great writing on top of that, you have great acting. Jack Quaid is so fucking good in this movie. Like, I'd argue this is Jack Quaid's best role to date, without a doubt. And the pacing is lightning quick, and it's just a fun movie that knows it's a fun movie and wants the audience to have fun right alongside it. And if you're up for a good time, you are definitely going to enjoy this one. Speaking of movies that are a good time and that are actually very successful at being comedies, number 18 goes to one of my most surprising movies of the year, and it's a movie that I was not expecting to like as much as I did, even though the final act of this particular movie is really fucking stupid. but the rest of the movie is great enough to carry it, not to mention it's one of those rom-coms that is not a flagrant generic piece of shit, and that is Hard Eyes, one of the best horror films of the year. I love this movie. Like, I absolutely fucking love this movie. It is funny, it is gory, it is tense, it is dark, it is darkly comedic, it has great practical effects, it has a great story. Again, until the ending where it kind of just fumbles over itself, which, yeah, you're seeing a trend here. But the highs of this movie far outweigh the lows, and you get Devon Sawa in there in a really nice cameo. What more could you want? Not to mention you have Mia Toretto playing the villain rather than the protagonist. As a Fast and Furious fan, I don't know why that makes me smile, but it just makes me smile. But again, the ending of this movie is really fucking stupid. If you can look past that, however, you're in for a damn good movie. Like, if you're looking for good comedic horror films, look no further than this one. Also, just like with Toxic Avenger, some of the best kills and deaths of the year, especially the one with the carjack. That was just really fucking creative and awesome. So, yeah, dumbass ending aside, Hard Eyes definitely deserves to be on the list. I'm just surprised it's not higher after the high praise I gave it in my review. Speaking of movies I gave high praise to that I thought would be higher on this list, 17 goes to another one of the biggest surprises of the year, and that is Freakier Friday. Now, after the absolute abomination from hell that was Hocus Pocus 2, I was dreading Disney ever touching any of my cult classic childhood movies ever again. And when I heard that Freaky Friday was the next one to get this treatment, especially after that god-awful 2019 Disney movie, sorry-ass excuse of a movie, I was dreading it. I was absolutely dreading it and thought it was going to be a massive crap pile. However, then I started seeing some reviews about it, and the reviews were surprisingly positive. Now, people weren't calling it like a great movie or anything like that from what I could decipher, but they were saying it was a good time, and if you like the original, you'll enjoy it too. So that gave me some confidence, and then last month in November, I finally got to sit down and watch it. Again, back to back after rewatching the original for the first time in a while. And this movie is just fun. Like, it's a fun movie that knows exactly what it is. First of all, Lindsay Lohan. It is amazing to see you in film again, and it is great to see you having fun again after all of the crazy bullshit that you've had to go through for the past 2 or 3 decades or so. So, that alone, great. Lohan slips back into her role of Tess like nothing ever happened. 2, Jamie Lee Curtis is still funny as hell. Like, this is what I wanted from Jamie Lee Curtis. I want her character to evolve, but still be the same judgmental, but very well-meaning and what's the freaking word I'm looking for here? Shit. Good-hearted mom, I guess I want to say. I don't really know how to describe her character. It's a little hard to really describe without going into a super long review, which I already did for this movie, just way later than I wanted it to be. And then you have Mark Harmon in here from NCIS, who's actually funny. I didn't know this guy had comedic chops, but he's actually really good at it. And then you have the plot, which manages to take the body swapping of the original, crank it up to 11, and not be a cringy piece of shit. That alone gets you some praise from me. So, you want more? Go check my review. I've done reviews on a grand majority of these movies already, but this was such a pleasant surprise, and I'm glad that this is one of those legacy sequels that Disney did not fuck into oblivion. So, yeah, if you love the original, you're gonna love this one too, and whether or not it's better than the original is up to personal opinion. Me personally, I had a great time with this one. I was surprised at how good it was, and if it weren't for the beginning having me a bit hesitant at first, because it does start out kind of bad, once the movie gets going, it is an absolute thrill ride. Yes, there's some nostalgia bait. Yes, I can understand that no one else is going to put this higher on this list than me. But if you love the original Freaky Friday, I implore you to absolutely check this one out. It is, hell, a legacy sequel should be done correctly. Alright, moving on. Number 16 is one of the highest praised movies of the year, and it's a movie that, again, didn't get to review, even though I had it scheduled. 16 is Sinners, the latest movie from Ryan Coogler starring Michael B. Jordan, and it's a vampire... John Crow, however you pronounce that, editing will correct me later. Crow era period piece. And just as I expected out of Ryan Coogler after Black Panther, he does a great job at giving so much biting social political commentary. On top of it just being a fun kick-ass vampire movie on top of all that. I mean, I wish I could say more, but it's really hard to explain in words without spoiling everything, because trying to deep dive into the commentary is going to spoil anything. Deep diving into the vampire stuff is going to spoil anything. It's a movie you just need to see, and you'll understand why it's getting such high praise and getting a lot of nominations from Golden Globes, Oscars, you name it. It's a really good period piece movie, a great biting political commentary movie, and just a really kick-ass vampire movie. And we need more of them. So why is it not higher on the list? Because pacing. I do think the movie's pacing is a little bit erratic. That's literally the only thing that's keeping it from getting any higher. Just the pacing. Outside of that, this movie's praise is very well deserved, and I feel really fucking stupid for doubting it after it got delayed a few months from its initial release, because usually with delays, then that means it's either really bad or it's going through last-minute reshoots that'll turn it into a little bit of a confusing mess. You know the drill. Usually delays are kind of hit or miss. But in this case, while I don't understand why it got delayed at all, I'm glad it got released, and I'm glad that the movie's getting its well-deserved praise. So, Sinners, if you like vampire movies, if you like Ryan Coogler movies, if you like Michael B. Jordan, if you like social biting political commentary, if you like period pieces, any of the above, you're going to love this movie. So, yep, Sinners, number 16. Only reason it's not higher is because of the pacing. 15 goes to a movie that thankfully I was able to get a review out before the end of the year, but I didn't get to review the other one. Yeah, sorry I didn't review Badlands, but I did give it an honorable mention, so you know I like it at least. I'll try to give it a review sometime in January. Anyway, 15 is Predator Killer of Killers. If there's one thing I was not expecting the Predator series to give this year was a animated, R-rated anthology movie. And not just any anthology movie, an anthology movie set in, like, way back time periods. And doing really damn good at it, too. Like, yeah, the storytelling, it's not perfect, and some of the animation can look a bit weird because of the style that they went with. But what this movie does well, it does really well. It's faithful to the Predator lore, it adds to the Predator lore, it gives you some great different new characters from these different time periods that you actually get invested in, great voice acting, some surprisingly really good kills despite it being an animation, which is a lot harder to do than you might think. And just being a really good Predator movie. Yeah, I do think that Badlands has some quirks that make it a little bit better in certain aspects, but in terms of overall Predator movies this year out of the two, Killer of Killers, in my opinion, is the better one. But they're both still pretty good movies. They're both still worth watching if you are a Predator fan. Just, I can understand that this one in particular is not going to be for everybody because it is animated and because the style is so weird. But you get around that, you're in for probably one of the best installments in the entire series since the original Predator. No, that is not me bullshitting, that is me being honest. Speaking of great horror films, number 14 goes to a movie that you know is going to be on this list, not only because you saw my review, but also because it's one of the highest praised and highest grossing movies of the entire year. Number 14 goes to Final Destination Bloodlines. After, 10 plus years after 5, I didn't think that we were ever going to get another Final Destination. But, surprisingly enough, they decided to bring this franchise back and give it a completely different spin. This time, it being about death going after an entire family bloodline, rather than just a bunch of strangers meeting because of an incident. And that one thing alone makes this movie so much more emotionally resonant than the past few have been. The past few have been mostly really over-the-top Ruth Goldberg trap entertainment movies with lots of gore. Again, excluding 4. 4 is a piece of shit. But this one, it manages to take all the things that all those other movies did so well about the franchise, spin it in a way where it's very unique and distinct from its brethren, while also still staying faithful to what people come to Final Destination for, and giving us some of the best characters in the franchise. Not to mention, you still get great deaths, and of course, you can't go talking about this movie without mentioning an incredible, touching final performance from the late great Tony Todd, may he rest in peace, as Bloodworth. And he goes out the way that I'm sure any fan would be happy with. It's one of those moments that you can tell the actor knew that they wouldn't be around much longer, so they decided to write their own script at that point to give a goodbye to the fans. Rest in peace, Tony Todd. You were one of the fucking best out there. But even taking out the incredibly well done Tony Todd tribute in this movie, the rest of it is really good. Literally, the only reason this movie's not higher is because, again, sorry to sound like a broken record, but the final act is a absolute clusterfuck. Like, the final act of the movie is where it does drop off a bit in terms of quality, because if you take that shitty final act out, you would be left with probably a 10 out of 10 movie. I'm not even bullshitting you. But because that final act just tries to do a bit too much, and it also is kind of just fucking lame, let's be honest here, I can't really give it much higher remarks. What I can tell you, though, is that this movie is really damn good, and if you're a Final Destination fan, it's going to give you everything that you want, and it is easily the best installment in the franchise to date. So, yeah, I don't know how they're going to top this one, but good luck is all I'm going to say. Number 13 goes to a movie that I had pretty much no anticipation for, because I barely even knew it was coming out until like a week before its own release. But it is a movie that gave me a very unique experience that I think deserves a spot on the list. Number 13 on this list goes to Warfare. Yes, this is a movie that doesn't really have much of a story. I can understand that. But this movie is more about putting you into the hellscape that is warfare, as the title suggests. And it's a movie that's being based off of the memories of those that have survived such events. And it is some of the most powerful shit that you will ever see in any war movie ever. And it does a great job at immersing you into this hellish landscape with these soldiers as they struggle to fight off these enemies, as they struggle to, not die, as they struggle to try to keep their comrades alive and try to follow orders while also following their own beliefs. Like, it's from the same director as Civil War, and where Civil War was a very potent and very powerful piece about society, this one is a film about just the horrors of war. And while we have seen it 1,000 times before in other movies, not in as much of a personal way as it is here. Because all of the events that are seen throughout this movie were events that have happened. Even if, again, Hollywood does Hollywoodize it just a little bit. But the pure experience that you will get from this movie, and going through this warfare, and going through all these battles with these soldiers, like, yeah, it's gonna be some of the most tense, heart palpitating shit that you will see all year. And thus why it's on the list. And again, I am so fucking pissed at myself that I couldn't review it, because it's such a good movie. Like, not only does it work as a great complementary piece to Civil War, but also just as a great war film in general. Like, yeah, on the surface it doesn't seem like much, but when you actually watch the movie and see its finer details, yeah, it's a pretty damn good movie, and I'm starting to really like this director, like, a lot. So, yep, I don't really know what else to say about Warfare. It's a movie you just have to experience for yourself to understand why it's here. Speaking of movies you have to kind of experience for yourself to understand why they're here, let's move on to number 12, which is the Naked Gun requel. Yes, it's on the list. Yes, it is almost in the top 10. And yes, I'm one of the people that finds this to be one of the funniest movies of the year. Shut up. Now, yes, I have only just experienced the Naked Gun series this year when I reviewed the original trilogy. But that was some of the most pleasant and fun first-time watches that I've had in a while. Excluding the third one was not very good. But this one, well, it definitely picked a weird time to come out, like August of all months. Like, really? August? Out of any month you could have picked to release your film, you picked fucking August, okay? It has Liam Neeson. It has Pamela Anderson. And it's a movie that at first we weren't entirely sure was even going to be good. Because usually with comedies like this, especially since we don't get comedies like this anymore nowadays, they are very hit or miss. There are some great comedy spoofs out there, and then there are some that are just absolute cringe. This one manages to be a great legacy sequel to the original Naked Guns, but also being just a fun comedy movie and doing some of the most clever but very risque adult spoof humor that you will ever see. And I have no doubt that if Leslie Nielsen was still alive and he got to see this movie, he would be very, very proud of what was made here. Like, this movie does a great job at recapturing what made the original Naked Gun movie so funny and entertaining, but also giving it its own unique spin. And you can tell that everyone involved in this movie is having fun, especially Pamela Anderson, who just owns her role. She understands that she has to do some crazy, wacky shit, and yet she does it all with a straight face with zero complaints. Hell, even the movie's villain is just as over the top and goofy as the rest of the movie is. Like, I don't really know what else there is to say. Like, it's Naked Gun. It's a movie that you know what you're getting if you're already going into it. It's a funny movie. It's one of the funniest movies of the year, and we need more comedies like it, damn it. It is so much fun, and you need to see if you haven't yet. So that's why it is on the list. Number 11, let's swerve back into the horror genre again, because horror had a really damn good year. And, yes, this is my pick for best horror film of the year. Out of all the horror films that I saw this year, excluding one, this was the best of them. So coming in at number 11 and just fucking barely missing the top 10 is VHS Halloween. I don't even know where to start with this one. I mean, the segment Fun Size alone gets it on this list. That is one of the most incredible segments of any found footage movie that I've ever seen. But then you have Dream Girl, which has some great visuals. You have a lot of visual gore, a lot of great, very fucked up storytelling, and it just fully just drenches itself in Halloween. And it does such a damn good job at it. Because horror and Halloween go together so well, a grand majority of the time. Hell, one of the most popular movies of all time is Halloween 1978. So, making a VHS movie that centers around Halloween, while it's not the first Halloween shorts that VHS has done, we have gotten a few in some of the recent Shudder movies. This one does such a damn good job at just drenching itself in Halloween and those colors and those festivities and finding ways to twist it around to something absolutely fucked up and horrifying. Like, it's VHS being VHS, man. I don't know what you want me to say. The only reason it's not in the top 10 is because there's so much stiff competition this year. Literally the only reason. But it deserves a spot on the list, and excluding one other movie that is going to be much higher, it is my pick for best horror film of the year. Just bar none. Now, speaking of the top 10, let's go ahead and start that top 10, shall we? These are the movies that I think are the absolute best of the year, and are probably going to be remembered for a long time as some of the best movies of this entire decade. Even though my number 10 in particular is kind of cheating a bit because it's not really a movie. Yeah, I kind of crowbarred this one and broke my own rules, because this is something that is definitely going to be one of my most memorable experiences of this year, and I have some friends that were actually able to attend this said event this year, and nothing but praise for it. And I've already seen this recording of it so many times since it came out on Prime Video, and I understand that me breaking my rules here to put this here is biased, and it's going to make people upset because it's not a movie, it's not even feature length, yada yada yada. But I think it deserves a spot, not only because it's almost the length of your average short film, but also because it's just an incredible experience from start to finish. And it's one that I promise you will be getting its own review. And that is Hazbin Hotel live on Broadway. I fucking love this special so much. Not only because it's amazing to see a show inspired by Broadway getting to be on Broadway, which in itself is an amazing achievement, but also getting to see all of these actors singing either as their characters or with their own voices. And the way that they perform and the way that they just all work off of each other with such a natural chemistry. Not to mention, all the theater seats are filled with cosplayers. How fucking often do you ever see that in any concert ever? Like, never. You never see that. And it just goes to show how far that this series in particular has come since its original inception, and since that original pilot from 2019. And I couldn't be any happier to be a fan, and this was such a great way to celebrate its ever growing and ever well-deserved popularity. Not to mention seeing all of these people, all these voice actors performing all of these songs, like live on stage with a live audience. It's a whole different experience, man. Like, I can't even begin to describe it to you. You just need to see it for yourself. If you have a Prime Video account and you're a Hazbin fan, you owe it to yourself to watch this at least once. It is one of the most enjoyable, fun, and heartfelt 40 minutes you will ever spend on anything. You know, unless you're one of those people that's still bitching about this show being for adults. I don't know what to tell you at that point. But yeah, I understand it's bias it's putting it here, but fuck it. It deserves to be in the top 10 because it's going to be one of my highlights of the year. Plain and simple. And that's why it's on the list. Number 9 is a movie that I want to review, a movie that I should have reviewed, and unfortunately it's another case of, by the time I finally got to see it, I ran out of time to actually review it. But I promise you, it will be getting its review at one time or another. And that is going to what is without a doubt the best anime movie of the year out of everything that released. And that is Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. I don't even know what to say about this movie. Like, I almost don't even want to talk about it because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone that hasn't seen it yet. But, oh my goodness, what a way to kick off the grand finale of this entire franchise with such a wild, insane movie that just blew all my expectations away. Blew them all away. Now, I don't think it's better than Mugen Train. Mugen Train is still probably my favorite. And one of the things that holds this particular movie back is that it's only one part of a big finale. Which means you don't get the full, complete story. However, if you can look past that, if you can throw that expectation away, you are left with one of the most incredible animated movies that you will ever see in your life. All the battles, all the voice acting from both the dub and the sub, the great character moments they managed to put in all between the insane action, the character deaths that are going to shock you if you didn't read the manga, and the way that it leaves off to lead into the next part, the second half, whenever that's coming out in the next 2 or 3 years. It's all so masterfully well done, and there's no doubt that this is definitely going to leave its mark on the anime fandom for a long, long time. So, if you're a fan of Demon Slayer, you absolutely need to see it, and whether you watch it dub or subbed, it is more than worth your time. Just be aware that it is going to end on a cliffhanger, and it's not the complete finale. It's only one part of it. We still have 2 more movies to go with the second part of Infinity Castle and the Sunrise Countdown arc. So, we're not quite done with it yet, but it's one hell of a way to begin the finale. Number 8 goes to a personal favorite, and it's a movie that I know that a lot of people are going to probably have on their worst list or on their most disappointing list or whatever, but this is a movie that gave me exactly what I wanted. Pure, old-fashioned, gritty action. Number 8 is Havoc. Damn, this movie's good. Like, I couldn't get why people hated this one so much when it came out and why the reviews were so mixed, but when I finally watched it, like, damn, like, it was such a refreshing, different action movie. It felt like an homage to those old action movies of like the 80s and the 90s, you know, the cult classics that are already established as classics of the genre. You know, put your own list here, etc., etc. But also doing it in a way where you still feel invested in the characters and you're still shocked by how they're able to film all this crazy action. And of course, at the center of it all, you have Tom Hardy. Just doing what he does best and being a kick-ass action star. I feel like saying anything more is going to spoil why it's even here. But if you love old school, gritty action movies, you should enjoy this one. Keyword being should. If you end up not liking it, more power to you and I respect your opinion. But me personally, one of my highlights of the year, one of my biggest surprises of the year, and such a damn good movie. And that's why it's on the list. Number 7 goes to another movie that I wish I reviewed, and it's another one that, guess what, is another Stephen King adaptation. We got 2 of them this year, and both of them were great, and both of them are on the list, and this is one that especially deserves a spot on the list for its pure tension and stakes. Number 7 goes to The Long Walk. Now, the movie on its surface sounds pretty simple. You have a bunch of these young adults and teenagers that are forced to walk endlessly. And you have these military people behind them that the second they stop walking at a specifically designated miles per hour, they're offed. And like any good Stephen King adaptation, it actually does a great job fleshing out and giving character to all of these characters so that when you see them die, you actually feel some kind of emotion afterwards, making the movie into an insanely tense and gripping experience from start to finish. Heck, there's actually, when this movie was in theaters, it actually had specific theaters where you had to walk on a treadmill the entire movie the exact same way that the characters are doing it in the actual movie. And if you fall below the designated miles per hour that's also from the movie itself, well, you get kicked out of the theater. Now, that may sound harsh, but it's all about the atmosphere. It's all about role-playing what's actually happening in the movie. It's not harsh, it's just people wanting a very unique and different experience to also experience what the characters are experiencing as they're watching them experience it. Yeah, ain't that a tongue twister. But great acting, great writing, solid pacing, high tension, incredible stakes, and just straight up gripping and tense as all hell. Like, if you love gripping, tense, dark movies, you're gonna really enjoy this one. And that's why it's on the list, and why it's the first movie out of the 7 that I gave a 10 or a higher to. The only reason it's not higher? Stiff competition. Once again, because this year was just fucking insane. Speaking of this year being fucking insane, let's move on to number 6, a movie that I was for sure thinking was going to be in my top 3 of the year, but surprisingly enough, it ended up falling below the top 5, despite the high praise I gave it, despite the high acclaim that I gave it, despite most of the high praise that I've seen for this movie pretty much all across the board of the internet. But because of this year being so fucking stacked beyond all belief, it's landing here. So with all that said, and please don't kill me, number 6 is The Bad Guys 2. A movie that should have done way better in theaters than it ended up actually doing. It was by no means a flop, and it didn't, it made back its budget and it made profit, but for some stupid, fucked up reason, this movie severely struggled to get any profit at first, until the positive word of mouth came around to get people to actually go to the theater to see it. And my question is why? Because this is one of the most high quality, well done, fun, and just all around entertaining sequels to any animated film that I've seen ever. Now, for those of you that don't already know, the original Bad Guys is one of my favorite DreamWorks movies of all time, if not my all-time favorite DreamWorks movie. It was so unique, it was so funny, it was so heartfelt, it was so well done, it was so fast-paced, and it was so endlessly, enjoyably rewatchable. This sequel takes all of those things that made the original so good, ramps them up to 11 with a shot of adrenaline, and fixes the one problem that the original movie had, that being that the villain was shit. In this movie, you get Kitty and her crew. And Kitty herself, damn, one of the best villains in DreamWorks. And I'd argue one of the best villains in all of animation. At least of this current millennium, because holy shit, she was actually really good and intimidating as a villain. And then you have, all the character arcs with Wolf and Snake and Shark and Piranha, and of course Diane Foxington still working her way into this mix, and the bad guys trying to be good guys, but then getting tricked into being bad guys again by the bad girls, and just hilarious comedy and great character development ensues. Add on one of the most insane endings to any animated film that you will ever see in your life, with the entire sequence in space and running up a freaking rocket ship, and you will just have a blast. So, yeah, unfortunately it's not one of the highest grossing movies of the year, which is, in my opinion, a cardinal fucking sin, but Bad Guys 2 is still a damn good movie that deserves your watch. Highly recommended, check it out. And now we get to the golden, glorious top 5. And man, was this one hard to decipher, because there was 4 movies in here that I gave a 12 to. It's the most that I've given to any movie year since I came up with the rating in, 2023, I think? I gave out 4 12s this year. And I'm actually boosting one of these movies up a bit. Well, actually, I'm boosting 2 of these movies up a bit from their initial ranking from my review, because of rewatches and how much I've grown to appreciate them more and more the more that I watch it. So, with all of that stated, number 5, and I know this is going to make some Snyder bots very, very angry, but I personally couldn't give a fuck. Number 5, in my opinion, goes to what is without a doubt the best superhero movie of the year, and the movie that I think is going to be just as fondly remembered as Iron Man was when it came out, for being a great universe starter. Number 5 goes to Superman. As if this didn't already spoil it at the beginning of the video. Dude, I don't understand the hate behind this movie. I really, really don't. It's a movie that sets out to recapture the golden era of Superman, the golden age comic era classic version of Superman. The one that is hopeful, the one that tries to give positivity and light to those in darkness, and the one that's not an edgy fucking Batman ripoff. But for some reason, this movie just got so much hate from the first trailer all the way to its final release. And I don't get it, because this movie, as you may have seen in my review, is one of the best experiences that I've had all year. Because, as I said in my initial review, going into it, I was not the biggest fan of Superman. I've always been a Batman fan. It's just always been my thing. But especially after watching the first two Christopher Reeve movies for the very first time in 2023 leading up to Flash, I came to really appreciate the character and grow more fond of him and understand why he's so beloved the more that I see of him. And when I heard that James Gunn, a massive, massive Superman fan, was going to be taking everything back to the roots of the character, that got my foot in the door pretty quickly for this new DCU. Not to mention how much I fucking loved Creature Commandos, which you will see me talk about in the best TV shows list. But it's such a good movie, man. Like, this is the Superman that I wanted. It's a movie that puts the action at secondary focus and puts all of the main focus, all of the main efforts into character development. Because this is a movie about Superman trying to be hopeful and give hope to those who need it, but also at the same time struggling to make good decisions because of how he is and how he was raised. Now, I will admit, the whole twist about Superman's parents actually being conquerors, probably a bit of a forced DBZ reference, let's be honest here, is a bit of a weird twist. I think it works really well in terms of the storytelling. And Superman himself, this might be my favorite Superman. Like, no doubt, like, the best overall is still going to be Christopher Reeve. But in terms of recent Supermen and the recent people that have donned the cape, Corn Sweat is my favorite one. He does such a good job at capturing the humanity and heart of this character. And I think that's what makes him such a good Superman. Because Superman is a very powerful, godly being, yes. But I think what makes him such an everlasting icon in pop culture is because of how he gives hope to those who have none. To be the light in that darkness for people. To talk people off of the edge. And most importantly, being human at his core despite being a superhuman. And this is something that movie really recaptured. Then you add in some funny, quirky, expected James Gunn comedy that's actually funny. A great cameo by Supergirl at the end. The Justice Gang, who are a delightfully unhinged bunch of characters, even if they do feel a bit like a discount Suicide Squad. And most of all, the thing that I knew about this movie I was going to love since the second it was announced, Nicholas Holtz as Lex Luthor. He is fucking amazing as Lex Luthor. Like, he just goes so far out of his way to fuel his own hate bias towards Superman and turn everyone against Superman because it just makes him so angry that everyone keeps giving praise to this guy that he literally drives himself nuts. And it's framed in a way where it's very relatable to, like, the hate culture of today, which makes it even funnier in all honesty. But the thing that really sealed the deal for me, the thing that made me adore this movie so much, is because of that one moment, that one incredible speech that Superman gives to Lex right before Lex gets taken off to prison. Talking about how he struggles and how he has to keep putting his best foot forward and how his greatest strength is in his humanity. That part made me fucking cry, bro. Like, I'm not even gonna kid you there. So, yeah. I know it's gonna get me a lot of shit, and I know that there are people that hate this movie, and if you gave this movie a chance and you don't like it, I respect your opinion. But if you're one of those salty bitches who hates this movie without even giving it a chance, there's the door, skedaddle. But for true Superman fans, this is as good of a movie as you could expect for the Man of Steel nowadays. And it only has me more excited to see what's going to happen next with the DCU. And I am so fucking stoked for Supergirl. Like, so stoked, especially after reading the Woman of Tomorrow comics for the very first time recently that's going to be adapted into the film. I couldn't be more excited, man. And the DCU has never been in better hands than it is now with James Gunn. I'm just gonna say it right up front. Because the direction that it's been going, I have actually been a lot more interested in the DCU than Marvel. That's saying something. So, yep, it's number 5 on the list. I boosted up to an 11 out of 10 for my initial review. And it is definitely going to be one of my favorite movies of the year for a long time to come. Speaking of movies that are going to continue to be one of my favorites of the year, number 4 goes to the Plankton movie. I don't think I even need to explain why this one's this high up, is it, huh? Now, I'll admit, I was a little bit surprised that it didn't make it into the top 3, but that just, again, shows you how fucking good this movie year was, man. Like, where I set expectations for myself where some things are gonna land, and they don't land there anyway. Like, that's insane to me. And Plankton is arguably the best SpongeBob movie since the original SpongeBob movie. Plankton himself is a great character. This movie does a good job at expanding his character and giving him a backstory. Karen is a damn good antagonist. The music is fantastic. The 3D animation is some of the best in the franchise. The jokes are funny. The slapstick is comedy. The slapstick comedy is funny. The references and memes are funny. And it's just a really well done story with some of the best writing in post-threequel SpongeBob that I've come across so far. So, I don't really know what else there is to say. You want more? Go watch my review. Because this movie deserves a spot, and if you've seen that review, you understand why it's here. Awesome film. Definitely the best of the 2 SpongeBob movies this year. Number 3 goes to another movie I reviewed, and probably my pick for best comedy of the year. Like, there were a lot of funny movies this year, but this one made me laugh the most, and it's the one that, thankfully, despite not doing so hot at the box office, is quickly becoming a beloved, highly praised cult classic. And it damn well deserves it. Heck, I even bought it on DVD not too long ago, and I'm going to be rewatching it again, probably on New Year's Eve. Because why not? Number 3 on this list goes to The Day the Earth Blew Up, the movie that WB tried to axe, and thankfully they didn't, and Ketchup Entertainment swooped in. It got released, and it's the first ever fully 2D animated feature film in almost 20 years. And it's also the first fully 2D animated film in the entire Looney Tunes franchise. Which, considering the franchise is over 100 years old, that's crazy, in my opinion. But also, because this movie just felt like good old classic comedy cartoons. Like, this did an amazing job at bringing back that heart, that soul, that incredible adult humor that made the classic and best of Looney Tunes shorts so iconic and memorable. And then you have Daffy Duck and Porky Pig still being themselves, and them, yeah, they do throw a few topical jokes in there, but they do it in a very tongue-in-cheek way. Then you have great humor, you have an incredible villain voiced by Peter MacNicol. I could go on and on about why this movie works so well, man. Like, if you love classic 90s animated films, you are going to adore this one. If you're a fan of the Looney Tunes, you're going to adore this one. And it only has me even more excited to see how Coyote vs. Acme finally gets released this upcoming year. I don't know what else to say. Like, go see it if you haven't. Go see it. It is easily one of the best animated movies of the year. Speaking of one of the best animated movies of the year, number 2 goes to what I think is the best animated movie of the year. Initially, I gave this movie a bit of a lower score than I expected, because I was trying to be a little bit more critical. But the more that I watched it, the more that I see the impact that it's had on the world, and the way that it has continuously made so many people's best lists, and very deservedly, might I add. It makes me so happy seeing it here, man. And it makes me happy that this movie that none of us had faith in turned out to be one of the highlights of the year. So, this is going to be high on a couple other lists too, but let's go ahead and talk about it now. Number 2, my second favorite movie of the entire year, the second best movie of the entire year, and my pick for the best animated film of 2025 is K-pop freaking Demon Hunters. Yeah, I know, shocker, and it shocks me too, because this is a movie that absolutely none of us had faith in, and yet it managed to become one of the best, most refreshing, and most entertainingly original animated movies that we've gotten in a very long time. What makes K-pop Demon Hunters such a damn good animated feature is the way that it's able to use its gimmick, K-pop music, and actually work it into the plot of the movie while also not being an advertisement. What do I mean by that? Well, to put it simply, it pulls a Lego movie, where it does have some advertisement from the genre and that fandom and that, that niche. But you can tell that it was still an animated movie first and foremost, and they were more focused on the storytelling rather than just being an outright advertisement. And considering this is from the same company that made the Emoji Movie, that shows progress, because I don't think any of us had any faith in Sony after that disaster. But anyway, another reason why this movie works so well, especially as a musical, is the music. Wow, I have not been the biggest fan of K-pop because I stay away from the fan bases because of, reasons. But the music in this movie is some of the best pop music that I've heard in a very long time outside of Hazbin Hotel. No, I am not bullshitting you on that one. It is some of the most re-listenable, catchy, fun, heartfelt, wonderfully well-written, and incredibly just entertaining music that I have heard in quite some time from any animated feature. And then you have the voice acting, then you have all the stories behind the movie and how it took 9 years to get made, which is insane to me. How Sony had so little faith in it, they sold it to Netflix, which now they are deeply regretting. How it's taken over the world, and how even the most stingy, snooty critics have praised this movie for everything it does right. But for me, the thing that sealed the deal on why this became my favorite animated movie of the year is because of the way that it is able to be so adult and mature without losing that appeal towards kids. What I mean by that is that with most animated movies nowadays, they use the excuse of it being just for kids as an excuse to be lazy and make the dumbest jokes possible. With Demon Hunters, on the other hand, while it is definitely, it can definitely be watched by children, I'd argue that this movie is a lot more powerful for adults, and especially those in the K-pop crowd, because it does a great job paying homage to the roots of that genre, to the roots of Korea in general and its own folklore, and all the adult themes in this movie. It feels like a movie from back in the 2000s. One of those movies that pushes the boundaries of its rating from the dark subject material it tries to cover here. In this case being identity and self-discovery. And it does it in a way where, sure, it's not unlike anything we've seen before in animation, but it still leaves its own impact. And I think that's what makes this movie so incredible to me. Not to mention all the stories surrounding it, and how it's taken over the world, and how everyone almost unanimously has praised it, despite all of us unanimously thinking it was going to be trash when it first got announced. But I could go on and on about why I love this movie, man. But I honestly don't think that I need to. It's K-pop Demon Hunters. It speaks for itself. It's the movie that has a title that makes people want to head for the hills, but when you finally watch it, it is a movie that you will be unable to get out of your head. For very good reason. Then you add in the Saja Boys, some of the best villains in animation, and one of the most incredible final acts of any film that I've seen this year. And it deserves all its praise and then some. K-pop Demon Hunters, the best animated film of the year and the second best movie of 2025. It's not going to be the last time we talk about it because we still got best albums and everything else, but damn, like, this movie being this high up alone is a shock. Okay, so what could have possibly beaten K-pop Demon Hunters out of everything from this year? Well, it's another movie that came out towards the back half of the year, and it's a movie that... Oh man, I don't even know how to describe why I love it so much, but I'm gonna try to do my best. So, without further ado, number 1. I am one of those people that usually tries to go for more obscure and different movies for my number 1 best of the year, every single year. Because most of the time, when critics pick what is the best film of the year in general overall, it turns out to be a movie that is not really all that good. Now, I'm not saying that happens every year, I'm just saying it happens a lot more often than it should. But this year, when I started seeing the praise for this movie, I, for once, actually agreed with everybody. And considering how much that I was one of the people that bashed this guy's last movie, it definitely feels, I don't know, vitriolic to actually agree with the main consensus for once. This is a movie that I think everyone is going to have very high up on their best list, if not at number 1. And it's from a guy that I have a complicated relationship with. But he truly made something that is going to last for many, many ages to come. And it might just be the best thing that this man has ever made. So, without further ado, my number 1 best movie of 2025, in my personal opinion, is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. This is the movie that Del Toro has wanted to make for a very long time. And this year, he finally got to make his vision of this story into reality. And you honestly couldn't have picked a better director to make this movie than you could have with Del Toro. With his unique style, with his specific, deep understanding of this particular source material, you really could not have picked anyone better to make this movie. You really couldn't have. And when the movie finally released and everybody praised it, at first I was kind of rolling my eyes like, okay, yep, it's Del Toro, it's gonna get praise, it's probably gonna get awards, yada yada yada. But when I finally sat down and watched it, for once, I actually agreed with everybody. This is a movie that you just need to see to believe. It is a movie that is truly masterful and incredible in every single way. I said it when I reviewed Nosferatu last year, and I'm going to say it here. If you can manage to remake a movie, remake a classic source material, but also add your own spin to it, while still being faithful to the origin and the roots, you're going to end up with something successful. And I've said it a couple times on this list already with a couple other remakes, but my goodness, I don't even know where to even begin with this movie. So all I can really say is go watch my review. It was one of my longest reviews of this year. And see the movie for yourself, because it is truly a one-of-a-kind experience. I know it may sound weird that I'm not spending much time on my number 1 best of the year, but trust me when I say it's a movie that you just have to see to believe. So why is it better than K-pop Demon Hunters? Well, for one, my own horror bias. That's number 1. And number 2, because it's just such a masterful masterpiece of a movie that I couldn't even begin to do any justice to, no matter what words come out of my speaking hole. So all I can say is, watch my review and watch the movie for yourself. Just the pure artistry, the pure incredible acting, the amazing set design, and some of the most incredible storytelling that I have seen in any movie. Not just horror, not just adaptations, any movie, period. And that is why Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein is my pick for best movie of 2025, and I'm not going to be surprised if it ends up being number one on a ton of other people's lists too. It may have taken a long time to come out, but this is the movie that Del Toro wanted to make, and he did not waste a single second of the opportunity. And that is literally all I've got for probably one of my longest videos ever, and for one of my most weird abridged videos ever. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have had a great 2025, and I hope you guys have checked out or are going to check out some of the movies that I've listed on this video, because this truly was an incredible year for film, and these were just some of the things that made it stand out so much. Alright, that's all I've got for now. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for a much shorter video with the top 10 most surprising movies of 2025. AKA the most surprising movies of the year that are not K-pop Demon Hunters. Because, yeah, we already know that's going to be number one. Let's not even kid ourselves here. We already know it's going to be number one. So, yep, that's all I've got. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until that list, have a great day, and I'll see you next time. I'm excited.